and we have actually begun. All right.
Alrighty.
So this is round 2 of a potential 3. Could be the last one, as I say, but time will certainly tell.
Yep. We got the sporting section. Pretty orthodox. Just kind of drop off these ramps, go fast.
Yeah, both of our runners definitely have a fairly even start. It's not really possible to have a wide time gap open up for at least 40 seconds into the run. At that point, though, both runners are going to have another opportunity to hit City Escape Skip. So, I mean, for one thing, if Zetti gets City Escape Skip and Traitor doesn't, that is one thing that can really open up an early gap and give a big advantage to Zetti for the remainder of the race. Could also go the other way, though, so we're going to have to see.
Traitor
Looks like
misses
the
Traitor,
run.
and
It
so
both
did
misses the
Zetti.
run. Yeah, okay. So it's still being kept even, at least. We're not getting one of those races where one of our participants gets C skip and the other one doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And both of our runners are just a few seconds apart, as we saw in the last time. It's always nice to see City Escapes where it's fairly closely fought. Even though Zetti is losing out a little bit and falling behind little by little through the stage, it could all very easily be reversed by truck section at the end of the stage.
Indeed.
Traitor having fairly clean rails though, and he did have a strong truck section last time, so let's see how they perform.
Yeah, I know them to be relatively pretty good at the truck section overall. But entering the truck section only a few seconds apart.
Traitor's was fairly good, by and large. Zetti also keeping up pace fairly well, so they are coming out of City Escape no more than a few seconds apart, 8 seconds apart specifically.
Yep.
This is all time variance which can very easily flip in the course of this race, though. It's honestly quite something how that can happen in this game.
Indeed. Coming up, we have Bigfoot, first boss of the run. Just gonna, jump on the box in the front, jump on his head, do that a few times, and he'll be dead.
Okay. Bring it on. Bigfoot reporting to headquarters. Intruder has been located. Copy that.
Yep, both of our runners coming out with fairly low 20s, a 22 and a 23. And so we're coming up to the first knuckle stage of the run now. The knuckle stage is Traitor getting a very good first piece. Both runners do need to look for 3 specific pieces in this stage. They are randomly generated, albeit each piece is always going to be in the same location. Like you can see they're grabbing hints to see where their pieces are, and the hints always correspond to the same locations. Traitor struggling with grabbing his last piece, but he did get a very nice set, so he's coming out with a 19, which is a very nice set.
Incredible.
Zetti, though, momentarily forgetting where he's going for this piece, so
definitely rough.
Losing a bit of time here with making over to his second piece. Like, Traitor's out of Wild Canyon, and Zetti is still on his way to his second piece.
Dude.
On a red circle, though, not a bad third piece to get from there at all.
Yep. Indeed. Yeah, you just saw Traitor beat Eggman there. Just kind of move forward a little bit and shoot him. And he dies.
Yeah, it's a really simple fight. Unfortunately, it's about the only thing that's simple about Tails in this game, since Tails' movement, as we're seeing in Prison Lane, is quite a bit more difficult. The main difficulty with Tails is that his cornering is really not very good, and if you corner too sharply on the ground, you are very liable to just lose all your speed immediately. So what the runners are going to be doing is jumping around as many corners as they can in order to conserve their speed.
Yep.
Prison Lane is also highly based around destroying enemies that are guarding all of these locked doors. Like, you need to keep unlocking these doors to progress through the stage, and they are always guarded by specific enemies dotted around the stage at certain spots. There are various spots where you can actually target enemies earlier than you're intended, since you can get them through walls sometimes. That's going to happen right here at the top of this elevator.
Yep.
There you go. Locking onto an enemy straight through a wall, because that's how lasers work.
Yes. I know when I shine my laser pointer, I can accidentally shine it in the eye of my neighbor.
Exactly. So both races keeping fairly solid pace up through this prison lane. Definitely no catastrophes so far. It's possible in this stage to have taken multiple deaths already, so definitely both playing it fairly well.
Indeed.
Traitor does get another early lock through a wall, and he's now locking into another bunch of enemies through that leftwards wall there. And hopefully he's going to get this gate hop. Nice. You just want to time destroying those enemies in such a way that you can land on the gate as it's descending, and then it cuts out the need to catch the small elevator that's just beneath that gate, which is honestly quite slow to have to take. So he also gets that early lock on that enemy, which a lot of runners will agree is fairly inconsistent, so it's nice to be able to get that.
Indeed.
So a nice couple of gate hops, and they are both coming out with fairly healthy prison lanes. Zzetti getting like another 145-ish prison lane, which seems pretty typical of him. And Traitor, meanwhile, is on the way to his first upgrade, which he's going to get with Sonic, the light shoes, which will allow him to actually light dash across trails of rings. It is, unfortunately, on the same action button as every other action in the game, so it can accidentally trigger when you don't want it to, and other actions can accidentally trigger when you want the light dash, but runners generally know how to deal with it.
Yep. Just to talk a little bit about Metal Harbor as a stage, though. Very dangerous, very dangerous. If you saw last race, Shredder took a death here. Excuse me.
At the end of the stage as well, which is a fairly costly place for it to happen. Zzetti takes his own death here. It's not as costly of a death, but still needing to start from the beginning of the stage is definitely not what a runner wants to do.
Right. Yeah. Why do I speak? Bad things happen.
It's just a difficult stage.
I mean, understandable. Have a great day. No, really, it is a very, very challenging stage with a lot of tight jumps over a death plane, so deaths are kind of just something that happen from time to time.
Traitor, thankfully, in the last race, that is where he died, right at the end of the stage, but he had a better time with it this time, and he came out with a 125. That's actually pretty strong Metal Harbor time. Not gonna lie.
That's good.
Zzetti choosing to ignore the potential pulley skip that he could be doing, but it's one of those skips, I'm sure you know the type in games, it saves a couple of seconds at most, and it's honestly quite difficult and risky to execute, so a lot of runners choose not to go for it. He's unfortunately taking another death here, though.
Gosh darn. I want a bit more costly than their first.
Yeah, those spin dash jumps will get you sometimes.
Indeed.
So whilst Zetti's finishing up his Metal Harbor, Traitor is coming up to Shadow 1. It's the first character boss fight, and he's just going to want to try and run into Shadow with what we call storage a couple of times. I did mention how every action's on the same button. This does mean that whilst you are holding the B button, the game does consider you to be somersaulting, which means you can inflict damage on things. So it's possible to just run into Shadow holding the B button, and you can actually damage him, which is very exploitable, and you got a fairly decent fight with that.
Yep. You can also abuse this in a few other ways. I will be seeing in Green Forest that these people, the runners will be trying to get the storage onto certain springs so that they can charge their spin dash when they land from the spring faster.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. So Zetti's camera was not very cooperative getting off that last loop, but he managed to find his way to the goal ring in one piece, which is very nice. Comes out with a 133 in his Metal Harbor. So Traitor does have a sizable lead right now, but he's going to need to play clean and solid and consistent in order to maintain it. There is still a lot of room for error in a run like this.
Yep.
Considering the difficulty of just the skips at the end of this game, it's really too early to say that it's over until it is actually over.
Yep. That's exactly what we saw last time, too. The very last stage before the final boss is what gave Traitor the win.
Yeah, that is true.
Another thing to mention about Green Forest is that it's really easy to fly off of every single hill in this level. And even some things that don't look like hills, but apparently are.
Yeah, the game is really good at letting you go fast. Like, the game is really good with speed. What it's not particularly good with is making sure that you actually stick to floors whilst you are going fast. Traitor does get the worst light dash possible going up the tree there, though. I mentioned last time that there's a few different light dashes you can get in that spot, thanks to the position that you get off the spring, and he actually did get the worst possible one, which flung him down to the very bottom of the tree.
Yeah.
Like, it's not random, but it is very precise and very difficult to aim for a specific light dash. So most runners generally just go for it and hope they get a good one.
Yeah, you tend to get a feel for it eventually, but every once in a while you just get thrown off your game.
Mm-hmm. That specific light dash that he got is the only one that really loses time. So whilst I did mention that runners just try to go for a good one, most of the time you will get one which at least doesn't lose time. Unfortunately, that did impact his finishing time quite a bit, and he is coming out with a 148, which isn't a fantastic Green Forest, but yeah, I did mention that that single unfortunate thing with that light dash did cost quite a bit of time in itself.
Looks like the stage is just bullying
playing
here.
safe. Yeah, he's playing safe though. He's not going for the loop skip.
Right. He's making good choices. Unfortunately, the stage just doesn't want to cooperate, throwing him off a whole bunch of hills here.
Yeah. He didn't come off that one hill just before the semi-loop though, so potentially looking up for him. And Zetti could get the good storage going up the tree, so we'll just have to see.
You got RNG here.
He is forgoing the checkpoint, so he's really going in. Considering he does get the good light dash going up, but since he avoided that checkpoint before the loop, I don't know if he's gonna stop to get the checkpoint just before bungee skip. So he needs to make sure that he gets this correctly. Okay, he is getting this checkpoint.
Oh, are they gonna get some power sneakers? I love me some power sneakers.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not the most helpful spot on the stage to get it, but I mean, it'll save a little bit of time.
Now, if you're wondering why I called them power sneakers and not speed shoes, it's because the manual calls them power sneakers, and I think that's a really funny name. It was like a little bit of a rough layout here on Traitor's side.
Yeah.
We're seeing Zetti possibly able to make up some time.
Yeah, Traitor coming out in almost a minute's time in Pumpkin Hill, which is definitely on the worst end of times that you can potentially get in that stage. He got a very good Wild Canyon, but then followed up with a below average Pumpkin Hill.
Yeah, really of no fault of his own. His execution was pretty darn good.
This place sure feels haunted.
So Zetti could stand to save a fair bit of time here if his RNG is good. Just gonna have to see. And Traitor, meanwhile, is entering Mission Street. Does look like... Yeah, so it does look like Zetti has gotten a decent first piece. Turns but doesn't turn. And Traitor is about to get the booster with Tails. You want to talk about that?
Basically, with the booster, it gives Tails this ability to hover. Normally this is used to cross large gaps or kind of slow your descent, but there's actually a little bit of an oversight with how the game was coded. And it actually ends up slowing your transition into descent, which means that you can get a lot of height sometimes.
It's closer.
Absolutely, yeah. Essentially, the closer that you activate the hover from when you start your jump, the more height it's going to give you. And this can be augmented by pause buffering it to try and get the two inputs as close together as possible.
Yep.
Which can although it's not like a huge difference, it is enough of a difference to get some earlier cycles and get out of bounds in a lot of spots that you weren't really meant to be able to.
Right.
An
It'll be a little bit
interesting
more.
method there.
It'll be a little bit more obvious in hidden base coming up in a few stages. Looks like they're getting first cycle.
So Traitor did struggle through the stage a little bit there, so he is coming out with a first cycle. Sounds good, but it is not actually the fastest cycle that you can get in the stage. Runners try to go for the 0 cycle, which Zetti's going to have a go at here. He just missed his hover input. The pause looked good, but yeah, he maybe pressed A before unpausing.
Yeah. It happens, it happens. Okay, that was a little bit scary on Traitor's side. But looks like everything's working out.
Yeah, by my count, he's going to come out with about a 219, 220 mission streak, which is pretty standard fare for getting first cycle. On this cycle, you can get like a 218 with very clean execution, but this is about normal. And if Zetti's execution is clean, as he missed the weight hop at the start of the stage, he's going to be getting the same cycle, as long as he doesn't lose any large amounts of time between here and the cycle.
Looks like they're playing pretty darn well. Yep, first cycle. With room to spare too.
Made it fairly comfortably, was still waiting for the cycle to come down, which is nice. It's always nice to not have to scramble just to get on the cycle, which can cause mistakes in and of itself. Traitor, meanwhile, is flipping the water level in Aquatic Mine to make movement easier, and he's just going down to the bottom. Aquatic Mine is a fairly small stage, so you can get some fairly odd piece layouts in this stage. He's going to the narrow path for this second piece. Possible that he could get a third piece in the ghost room that's on the opposite side, which there is a clip that you can use from here, but I don't know if he goes for it. Yeah, he's not attempting the clip.
It's really difficult, honestly, so I can understand why.
It's absolutely not trivial. You essentially need to use the hint monitor to force you out of bounds, and the positioning required for it is very strict. So Traitor comes out with a 52. The game is really not giving him good times with these RNG stages. He had a really good Wild Canyon, and the game is basically turning the tables a little bit, it seems here. Since 52, I also would not really call a good Aquatic Mine.
Yeah, definitely a bit rough. Anything from where he got that last hint to the ghost room, which is where the last place to go, tends to be
Zetti has his first piece right where he starts, and he just wants to get the switch here while Omochao is wasting time by talking, then he can get his next hint. One box on the steel beam is absolutely not great, but we'll just have to see how it goes. It's the closer variant at least, so he doesn't have to go right to the back of this room to collect this piece.
I'm gonna have to steal that way of getting it. The normal way of getting this is awful.
It's, I don't know. I don't have too much difficulty with this piece, and Zeddy is kind of struggling right now. It is a difficult piece to grab.
Yeah, it looks like they got
right at the bottom of the main room though, so this third piece is pretty close by. I would be pretty happy with getting this third piece in this particular set.
I found him. Yeah, this is perfect.
So neither runner, unfortunately, got what I would call a good piece set in Aquatic Mine. That stage can give a lot of really awful piece sets when it wants to.
Indeed.
But they're both going to be in Route 101, and this is going to be an opportunity to see exactly how far apart our guys are, since the in-game timers in the top left can effectively just be used to see how far apart they are, and it's looking like it's the region of about 120. So Traitor is about 80 seconds ahead of Zzetti right now, which is, as I say, it's a sizable gap, but it's one that he does need to maintain to the end of the run, and that is a task that's easier said than done.
Yep.
This Route 101 is looking pretty decent right now, though this looks like it's going to be a 216, maybe a low 217. Yeah, that's a 216. The in-game timer in the top left lies on this stage, and you actually get a slightly better time than what it claims that you did. So
Yeah.
that is a 216. A low one at that as well.
Nice. Just counts fast for some reason. These stages barely work.
Yeah, they're a little janky. So much so, in fact, that it's possible to reach the end of the stage at a certain point. Basically, when you reach a certain point at the end of the stage, all the objects deload, and if you hit a car as it's deloading, it will actually take the rest of the stage with it, which does cause death. And it is virtually the most costly death that can be taken in a hero story run, so
Yeah, it's...
runners are very careful to not let that happen.
Right. It's really, really dumb.
Traitor has reached Hidden Base though, so he is well and truly into the second half of the stage. He's reached what we call the desert stages. Tails' Hidden Base, Sonic's Pyramid Cave, and Knuckles' Death Chamber. A lot of runners agree that as long as you're not counting major skips, these are the most difficult stages of the game. So Traitor's really going to have to be continuing to bring his A game to get through these in quick time. It would not be uncommon to watch people doing runs of this game and see a lot of runs dying in these 3 stages.
Certainly. We mentioned before that a lot of hover jumps were going to be abused in Hidden Base. You're going to be seeing that, or you have been seeing that, but it'll become even more evident as we go on. But yeah, just jumping all over all these walls and whatnot, so you don't have to break them down. Each one of those saves like, you know, a few seconds, and it really, really adds up throughout this course of the stage.
Absolutely, yeah.
You see the most evident one that doesn't quite look normal right here on the Traitor's side.
Zetti going for a nice pause buffered hover jump to make what we call Axel jump. Because it was discovered by our guy Axel Thunder.
Our boy. He's a cool dude.
So Traitor coming out with a 156. Definitely a healthy Hidden Base. I think he'll be fairly happy with that. Zetti himself is pretty much going to be hoping to come out with a sub 2 minute time himself.
Looks like a rather smooth Hidden Base on Zetti's side so far, and definitely a good one on Traitor's part.
So far, yeah. And Traitor, meanwhile, is in Pyramid Cave. I did mention that this is probably Sonic's most difficult stage. There's a lot of just technical stuff that goes on throughout this whole stage. He's currently struggling with a geometry bounce off the corner of that spot using the Chow box there. But he's through, and he's going to be reaching the bounce bracelet now, which is going to let him perform super bounces and gravity bounces. Super bounces to go very high in the air, as you just saw there, since it just converts your horizontal momentum into vertical momentum whenever you hit a wall in the bounce form. And right after this door skip that's coming up in a long corridor, he'll be using a gravity bounce as well. Gets the door skip first try, very nice. He barely set that up as well.
I did it!
Nice. Almost got grabbed by the ghost.
Mm-hmm.
That was easy.
Yeah, gravity bounce basically allows us to maintain whatever angle Sonic is at, or even change it. Sometimes, a little bit rough, homing attacked it, or bounced and homing attacked a bit early.
This is a bit of a repeat of what we saw in the last race as well. Traitor seems to be struggling with snake skip, and to be fair, this isn't an easy trick. Like, this is a lot more difficult than it looks.
Alright, second try. They're not out of the woods yet. There's still one gravity bounce left, although let's see if they go for it after missing it last run.
Zetti is just taking the long way around this first section, but from what I've seen in the last race, Zetti seems to prefer just taking the slow and steady route in Pyramid Cave, which I definitely don't blame him for. As I said, it's a high-risk stage, if there ever was one.
Right. Looks like they are not going for the last gravity bounce, playing it safe. Understandable, especially after what happened last time. A little bit of trouble with the first door skip on Zetti's side. Definitely could be difficult super bounce to make.
Yeah. The door can do quite a lot to interfere with your ability to actually get a good bounce there.
Looks like the camera just bullied him a bit there.
He also gets the door skip first try though, so not bad, not bad. And Traitor, meanwhile, is in Death Chamber, and he is choosing to reset on Bug's defense. Maybe he just resets on green pieces in general, which...
I have a feeling that's the case.
I don't personally advise that, but I mean, people just have their own ways of playing Death Chamber.
Yeah. It's probably not as good for RTA as it is IGT, that's for sure. And these races are RTA. Oof,
Yeah.
A bit of a death on Zetti's side. Oh, Machao killed the enemy. I think he was probably trying to get hurt by that enemy, so thanks a lot, Machao.
Yeah, Amachao is really, really unhelpful. He's there to help, and all he does is get in your way.
Mm-hmm. Can't grab hints.
Gets a respawn piece though, so nice. He's got a place where the bug used to be. And
Ooh!
oh wow, that's an unfortunate death for Zetti. Oh, I'm not entirely sure why he's booty clipping for this piece, but okay.
Yeah, he did that last time as well. Can be
Interesting
faster.
decision. I mean, it works.
Yeah. It's a little bit faster, it seems, maybe. It's one of those things that's like close enough that you really have to time it out.
Yeah, it's just very possible for the camera at the booty clip spot there to make certain flight paths very difficult to gauge if it doesn't follow you immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe Zetti is just going to be low-risking the end of this Pyramid Cave, as I mentioned. Yeah, he's just not taking any risks with these last loops. And he just wants to get through in one piece. Which he has finished now.
Yep. Got Boom Boom coming up. Bit of a rough boss. Definitely the most important one to be consistent at.
No problem.
You just gotta like hold a certain angle and punch at a certain time. But it's a little bit easier said than done. That angle is kind of precise, and the punch times can be a little bit silly. If you mess it up once, you definitely stand to lose a lot of time.
Yeah. It is possible to miss one punch on this boss and still get the one cycle, but it is very, very unforgiving.
So they're getting the first cycle.
Yeah, he comes out with a 47, but he now has to contend with Egg Golem right out of one boss and straight into another one, and this one is considerably more difficult, unfortunately. You can use the same super bounce tech seen in Pyramid Cave, but the walls here are extremely narrow and there is barely any time to get off the inputs required. And by barely any time, I mean I believe it to be 5 frames to perform 2.5 inputs for each super bounce.
Something along those lines. I think that's it. Yeah. One of the more rare second pieces here on Benny's side.
Yeah, a core second piece is not very common to see in this stage. The red jewel, so this is on the blue side. Traitor, meanwhile, is definitely taking this fight, I think, a little safer than in his previous race, since he's deciding to go for back hits rather than stick around and insist on getting super bounces.
Yeah. Looks like that he got a little bit turned around there. Very easy to happen in Death Chamber.
Yeah, navigation in Death Chamber is quite difficult to learn. Even if you know exactly where all of the hint locations refer to, you still need to get a good feel for navigating between the red, blue, and green rooms.
It's closer. I found him.
So in order for Traitor to get the most out of this Eternal Engine, he's going to want to get through it as quickly as possible, since, like Mission Street, it is a cycle-based stage, and about a minute and a quarter through the stage is the spot with the cycle that the runners are trying to meet. Not too sure about his pace so far, but we'll see. You can afford a couple of mistakes in Eternal Engine before the cycle is off. At this pace, I don't really think it's possible, but we could see. There's a couple of riskier strats that can be gone for closer to the cycle.
Yep. Looks like we got Zzetti on Boom Bill. You notice, Traitor here, you might have seen that they're jumping in front of the doors. Ooh. Rough, Bimbo. You know, taking a death. But jumping in front of these doors is basically to let them open enough to have Tails be able to still squeeze through them. Which we're getting a pretty solid second cycle here.
Traitor getting a little bit of a weird collision there as he clipped out, which dropped him straight down. Thankfully, he didn't hit the kill plane that was directly underneath him. So Zzetti just needs to be careful here on Boom Boo to not be too far ahead as he's landing his punches. Otherwise, it does send Boom Boo in the opposite direction and basically kills the one cycle. Thankfully, he got it.
What a hassle.
And as long as Traitor doesn't miss the goal ring here, then he will be off to Meteor Herd with, again, a very sizable lead. He almost did miss it there. Like, that was, I think, closer than he anticipated and perhaps wanted. But he got it, and that's all that really matters.
Yep.
Zzetti, unfortunately, being forced to sit through a spinning animation here on a golem, since this will always happen if you are in the back half of him when he's deciding his next attack cycle, and just due to the way that the game rebounds you after hitting the weak spot, sometimes it forces you into that situation, and it's not really the runner's fault when that happens.
Right. Oof. Looks like they missed the spin dash jump off the arm. Rather rough golem here. We got a Meteor Herd though. Stage is mean a lot. Okay. Oof. Looks like they
Can
made
still
it.
get around. There you go. Nice.
The stage can really have some awful piece combinations, but it looks like Traitor is getting off pretty scot-free here. A little bit below average for sure, but
Yeah.
nothing too horrible.
His last piece is in multiple potential spots, but that is the end of RNG for Traitor in this run. So that's the end of Knuckles' stages, and we just have Knuckles' final boss of the run now, which is Rouge. And a clean fight should be over in like 15-16 seconds. Ideally, you just want it to be over within 20 seconds, because that is when the lava vent on the floor opens and takes the fight into the air, and at that point it's a lot more difficult to track down Rouge and get quick hits.
Yeah. If that happens, you often see most runners just restart the fight from the beginning.
Yeah.
Even though that seems like a time loss, it's actually usually better than trying to wrestle with Rouge in the air.
Yeah, if the floor opens up, it can easily take longer than another 20 seconds to track her down and finish her off.
Mm-hmm.
So Traitor does come out from it with a 15, and he is now going to need to do, for him at least, the most difficult skip in the game. There are trickier skips that can be gone for, but he has opted not to go for them so far, but from the strats that I know that he performs in a run, this is the big one. Crazy Gadget skip. So what's going to happen is that once he reaches the gravity room, gravity is going to be switched to the left, and then with a very precise spin dash jump, it's possible to make a very large gap that's not really meant to be possible. And from there, he can actually maintain the... He's actually gone for CGSS. What in the world? This is surprising.
Guess they're comfortable with this run. Looks like they got a death there.
This is considerably... I did not think he was going to go for this skip, and it is a lot more difficult than the Crazy Gabbit skip I mentioned before, so is he going to try it again? No, he's given the single attempt, so he's just going to go for the normal skip now.
Alrighty.
So this is the spin dash jump that I mentioned before, and now that he's passed this, this gravity is maintained throughout the entire rest of the stage. And after navigating through the next couple of rooms, he's actually going to be able to just fall through a wall and land straight in the goal ring. But it is difficult to gauge, as the wall pattern that he needs to aim for doesn't exactly have much in the way of visual markers to gauge where you're actually landing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's struggling a little with this acid room. He struggled with this in the last run as well, just getting onto the floor here. Tried the bounce method there, but it just wasn't really cooperating. He's in now, though. He just needs to destroy this central enemy to unlock the door. And now he just really doesn't want to miss the goal ring once he falls towards it. Otherwise, this can do a lot to help Zzetti catch up in the end game.
Yeah, definitely still not out of the woods, though. Looks like...
It's looking good.
Yeah.
He's in.
Still, not out of the woods yet.
Not out of the woods, but it is a very sizable lead for Traitor.
Yep.
It's closer.
Zzetti, meanwhile, is going towards his last piece also, which is behind a star. From his current position, it is not a particularly good piece. He has to go all the way back up to the top of the stage. Eggman, meanwhile, is really trying to give Traitor the run around here.
I found him.
Yeah, Traitor rapidly taking damage, so he does need to get another hit on Eggman without getting hit himself. Nice, he actually used a pause hover to get out of the way in time there.
Nice. Good stuff.
Kind of lost the thread a little in that Eggman fight in terms of staying in control, but he still managed to execute it well enough to get out of there without dying, which is very nice. So pretty much all that stands between Traitor and advancement to the elimination rounds now is nailing Final Rush Skip when he gets there and finishing off Shadow 2 in style.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just going for Final Rush Skip, using the same skewed gravity tricks that we saw in Pyramid Cave by bouncing. And he's just going to want to maintain this for a specific amount of time so that he can fall around all of the kill planes in the stage, since he's virtually falling sideways at that point. And he's now around all of the kill planes, and now he's just going to fall straight towards the end of the stage. Providing that he hasn't fell for too long, he will have enough height to make it. This is the difficulty with this skip. You want to fall long enough to avoid kill planes, but if you go for too long, then you just won't have enough height to make it to the end. So we won't really know how this is until we see the level come back into view in a few seconds.
Yeah.
Zzetti, meanwhile, is making damn sure to get that checkpoint.
Looks like they've got enough height.
Yeah, this is definitely more than enough height to get the skip.
Oh, they're going around the side. Oh wait, never mind. Got bamboozled.
Yep, that is a successful CG skip and a successful FR skip for Traitor, so honestly, the only way that Zzetti is going to get out of this is if Traitor somehow manages to take multiple game overs to Shadow 2. This is the last boss of the run coming up, and it is just a 5-hit affair. A good fight takes all of 16 seconds. Though there is a lot of things that can go wrong with this fight, so technically it's not over yet, but Traitor is in a very advantageous position right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an ideal position there, but he's recovered nicely. Just needs one more hit.
Oh!
Oh, wow. Okay, I have never seen the death caused by a backwards light dash in this fight.
Rough.
I've seen a lot of things happen in this fight. I've never seen that happen.
Huh.
Yeah.
No problem.
But once again, okay. He still just needs his last hit. And Shadow is chaos controlling though, so Traitor's gonna have to wait.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got it. That's it. 40-41. So the winner of this tiebreak round is Traitor, who has pulled out 2 wins, and he will be advancing to the single elimination format. So definitely congratulations to him, and commiserations to Zetti, who still put up some very good fights and showed us some very entertaining runs.
Yep.
I did it!
Like, for a lot of the first race, Zetti was like in the driver's seat for a lot of it, I would say.
He was quite ahead at a few major parts.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So we will just be seeing Zetti finish out his own run now. He is also in Final Rush, and he just needs to hit a Final Rush skip of his own. He does go for a slightly different variant than what Traitor was using, but it is a slightly easier one and a bit of a more consistent one, I would wager.
Yeah.
So as long as his timing is sound, he shouldn't really have much difficulty landing this. Yeah, levels come back into view, and Zetti is also looking like he's going to have more than enough height to make it to the goal ring here.
Yep.
Yes.
Nice. Now all that's left is Shadow 2.
Huh. No problem.
Yeah, definitely rather smooth runs for both the runners.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Zetti closes out his own run with a 43-32.
Game over, Shadow.
So definitely big thanks need to be given to both of our racers for putting on those very entertaining races for us.
Yep.
And special congratulations to Traitor for, as I say, clinching this round, and he will be continuing on to the second half of this tournament.
Yep, and
Sorry.
good run, good try on Zetti's part.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't believe we have anything scheduled for the rest of tonight, do we?
For your SA2 specifically, no, I don't believe so.
No. So that is going to be it for us tonight, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Thank you all for watching, and thanks one last time to the runners.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple more races to go for one of our qualifying brackets, and after that we will just be working up some brackets for the single elimination, and we will be going straight onto that, and each of those rounds will be best of 3s. Hopefully should start in like about a week or so, yeah. So hopefully April will be the month of the elimination tournament in Sonic Adventure 2. So keep your eyes and ears out for that, and we will see you when we see you. Thanks very much for watching, everyone.
Yep.